So Kathy, we're going to talk about what we should use on knits.
Okay, great.
So we're going to talk about no-show mesh, what happens to be the most incredible stabilizer ever. So again, our motto being fuse when you can fuse,
Right.
making sure we use that fusible stabilizer, fusing it to the back. And it's very important to fuse it to the knits, just as the quilters cottons and unbleached muslins, because again, it can stretch out of shape so much when you're putting that embroidery design on there. Now, the no-show mesh comes in fusible, it comes in non-fusible, it comes in beige, and it comes in white.
Nice.
So beige really is probably the most popular to put behind white because it's the same color as your skin.
That's right.
So keep that in mind. And I never really thought that that was probably really an issue till I actually put it behind some white t-shirts, and it doesn't shadow through.
Nice.
So it really does look better. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple applications here on these, and fusing this to the back. You know, I've fused this on, I've done the embroidery design, and I've pulled this back, but I've not trimmed it off yet, just so you could see what this looks like.
Okay.
Then I would take my scissors when I get all done and trim the excess away. But you're just going to fuse this right to the back of where the design's going to go.
Okay.
This would be really difficult to hoop because of the narrow neckline. So I just open this up, and I would use the Wet and Gone Tacky in the hoop.
Right.
Or you could use the Perfect Stick in the hoop, because your main stabilizer is this no-show fusible mesh. No-show fusible mesh is for a place so that it will stretch and give and move with the stretch of the knit. So every time these are washed, you'll still have a beautiful stitched out design. That's why these have been washed so many times, and they still look so nice,
Oh, beautiful.
and they don't stretch out of shape. This is one of those really stretchy little bibs. Again, you can see the no-show mesh back there. Just take and trim the excess away.
And it's so soft.
It is soft. It's really soft. And then you can see how beautiful the design's stitched out. Now, no-show mesh is going to hold about 10,000 stitches for a well-digitized design. But you may have a design that is well over 10,000.
Right.
The great thing about the no-show mesh is you can take and fuse on the one layer on the back and take a second layer and just lay it over at a 45-degree angle and fuse it right over the top of the first one. Now you've just been able to increase your stitch count 3 to 4 times.
Wow.
So just by fusing that second one over the top. So one more time, you're going to fuse your first layer on.
Okay.
Then you would just take your second layer and just lay it at a 45 right over the first one and fuse it right over the first. Now you can easily get 30 to 40,000 stitches
Wow.
and not have to have heavy cutaway back
What a
there.
great tip.
Oh, it just gives you still a really soft and smooth design.
And Debbie, I love it. Even though this is a nicely filled in, dense design,
It's very
still
dense.
so soft and pliable.
It is soft.
It's really nice.
And Kathy, these have been washed many times, all of these, and they still come out looking, and I run them through the dryer, and they still come out looking, you know, really nice and smooth. And this is really stretchy, this bib,
It sure is.
so they stitch out really nice. This is a little, one of those little Disney characters, and again, this has been washed several times, and you can see how nice and smooth this ends up being.
Again, so soft.
Yes, and this has 2 layers on the back. I'm going to show you another little trick. I can't show you the 2 layers on the back because I've taken and covered the back of this, and we're going to talk about Dreamweave.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait and show you this little trick here when we get to the Dreamweave segment because that's an awesome little trick.
Alright.
And here's this little giraffe. Now I'm going to tell you my boo-boo on this.
Okay.
All right, so here's my no-show mesh back here, but I hooped this, and you know how I feel about hooping.
Oh, yeah. None of us like to hoop.
So when I hooped, I did not loosen my hoop enough that when I put down the inside clamp, the inside hoop, when I got all done, I had a little hole right here
Ah.
from where my round part of the hoop went. So I thought, I know I don't like hooping. And you can see back here the little hole if you were to
How
really
about
look
that?
close.
Yeah.
And And it's just because I did not loosen my hoop enough when I
Nice.
put that down, and it just distorted. So if you're going to hoop, you want to be sure you fuse this whole entire layer with your fusible no-show mesh. That way it'll protect that so it doesn't destroy your corners when hooping and putting that inside hoop on.
Right.
So I just covered it with a little bow, and
Well, let me ask you this, Debbie. Did you stitch the little bow on by hand?
I'm allergic to handwork.
I am too.
This is just simply a bar tack that you would sew your buttons on your machine. That's
Right,
all it is.
right. And you know what? I have at a time or two used a little period or a comma in the fonts on my machine to tack on a little bow, because I don't want to hand sew anything that I don't have to.
See, now that's a
either.
really good
So,
idea.
yeah.
Very good idea.
Yep.
But there is ways to cover up things. That's why we
right.
show.
That's right. That is so smart.
Okay, so you know, one of the greatest uses for no-show mesh is that you can take and stitch out your designs directly on to the no-show mesh. Now, this is going to look puckery because I've taken this out of the hoop and I've just put it back in.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter because we're going to come back to this awesome heat craft tool again.
Love the tool.
Now I would put this on a ceramic tile, okay? And I just went to the local hardware store and just got a nice ceramic tile, you know, mismatch for like $1,
Right.
and having the ceramic tile underneath. And again, putting this back, leaving this in the hoop, and I put it back in. I'm just going to outline all of this and burn all of this out till I have a freestanding design.
Nice.
So I can put on an edge of a table runner, or I
Yeah.
could do lots of things with this. And I'm going to show you some cool things I've done. So let me just kind of show you this little flower, and we'll move this one aside for a minute. I'll let you put it over on your side. This is another one that I've done. This was the one layer of no-show mesh. Now, on this one, Kathy, I was worried that maybe the design wasn't really heavy, wasn't really dense, because this is a watercolor design that Floriani has, and they're very cute. So I put the no-show mesh in the hoop, and I added one layer of nylon organza. There's that nylon again. Over the top of the no-show mesh, stitched out my flower, and then burned it out again with this wonderful heat craft tool. I took every one of those flowers and created this little table runner here. And if you turn this over, you're going to notice that none of them have been stitched onto this little table runner. And burned these all out, stitched them all out. You could do so many fun things with this. And how easy this is, just with the nylon organza. That way the nylon organza covers so that it doesn't have the no-show mesh showing through, because otherwise you'd have the no-show mesh kind of coming through on some of these designs.
Right.
And that has that sparkly, and they turn out absolutely adorable. You could just put this
is
application,
beautiful.
well, on so many fun things. It's just very, very simple to do. So I'm going to show you a couple others. Let's put this one over here. This is just a freestanding, well, it's not it wasn't a freestanding, but I turned it into one. It was a free design that we had in the software, and I just made a little patch out of 2 layers of no-show mesh.
How nice would that be to put on a little beach bag or something that you couldn't ordinarily
Get
stitch
into
directly
embroidery.
on? Yes.
Now, Kathy, on this one here, let's talk about that one more time, because there's that 45-degree angle. Do you see how I've got the first one, and then I put the second one? Because I believe the stitch count in this little guy is probably close to 40-some thousand stitches, if I remember right. So by just layering those, of course, this is not fusible.
Right.
But I just put them at that 45 to give it that extra oomph. I did the same thing on this one. Now, these are very popular. And these are just these little Loreleis. Again, you can make these darling little patches
Sweet.
to use.
Yes.
2 layers of no-show mesh, burned them out, and on those difficult beach bags, whatever, you could put those on. And a little bit later, we'll show you a permanent adhesive that you can actually put on the back, so you don't even have to sew these on
Yes, would love to
and
know.
fuse it on, so it'll stay permanently.
Yeah. We have all sorts of designs for luggage tags or backpack tags. We even have some that you can stitch that have buttonholes included. You can run the ribbon through and wrap around a pillow. So knowing this technique and using the tool, that's a neat technique. What a great way to
That's
learn
fantastic.
that.
That's wonderful. So that is our no-show mesh and no-show fusible mesh, again coming in white and coming in beige.
Nice.